So real quick, I am here as an advocate. I'm also attendee. We don't have, this is my husband. We don't have children yet. We've been trying for 10 years. I've had miscarriage. I've had multiple ectopic pregnancies. So I'm also a singer and songwriter. So through the trauma of all of that, I started singing and writing my own stuff. So I'm an independent artist.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Because a lot of women don't have a place to put that pain.
Yeah, it's so true. And I started advocating for women in this space, Black women specifically. I've had experiences being in the ER and not being listened to and being just agony.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we can.
So I've been married for 25 years. It'll be in November. It wasn't until about 6 years ago that my husband finally understood the importance of having him, a white man, take me to the ER, be there with me. Because without him, I wouldn't be listened to. I will be there for hours.
Yeah.
And he has to stay because when he leaves, they just sort of forget. And it took a while for him to actually understand that, or it would be, you're in pain. But if I was in that much pain, I couldn't look as beautiful as you. Like, well, that's just me. But, so I'll understand that sort of pain, and that's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that you're going through that. You are allowed to be upset about this.
I appreciate that, and I absolutely loved what you spoke about. There was a couple of things. One thing you mentioned, the story you tell people, and then there's the truth.
Yes.
I resonated with that so much because of my story. Like sometimes I just show up smiling like, oh yeah, I guess that was just a thing. I'm good now. On to the next thing.
Right. And especially for me, because I'm in comedy. And so there is that sense of before comedy, an actress. So anytime I was emotional, it was like, well, you're just being emotional. But there is that sense of keep it light, keep it happy, keep it uplifted.
Yeah.
And I realized after, that when it would be my daughter's birthday, I would find myself, Nyima, going into that PTSD of what actually happened and feeling sad and upset and wanting to say to my husband, we were partners up until that, like hours before, and then I did it all myself, and it was sort of expected.
Yeah.
I remember coming home from the hospital, his mother and father. God, I hope they watch this. They know what they did. But it was more about him being sick than me having just had my stomach opened up.
Yeah.
But there is that story, and it is important to allow yourself to really tell it. And it took me years, and it was really Trudy saying, he was like, I want you to tell your birthday story because I know you got some funny, like it was sort of, I know you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I could make it hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's masking what I truly feel and what I know my daughter felt. And even in that, like, she and I are tight. Probably because they just brought her, and it was like me and her looking at each other. You want to try this? All right. It's,
Yeah.
There is that story that you tell to make other people feel better about your pain, but it doesn't make their pain go away.
Yeah.
And until you address it, honestly, and for me, it just took, like, my husband apologized for not being, because for him, it was, they told me I couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I had myself or someone to go sleep in the car.
Yeah.
Have to drive all the way home.
Right.
He's there. And then when the son was born, there were also things like I started having contractions at 4 months. So I was in bed. I had placenta previa. 6 months. And I remember my mother-in-law sort of blaming it on me doing too much. And I think I had been sort of dancing with my daughter. We had gone to hear some music, something, and she was like, "You shouldn't have been moving around." And it was always, it's your fault. And when he was born, when my son was born, he was 6 weeks premature due to the dates that we had given. But he was ready to come out. But technically, they had to put him in the NICU. And they wouldn't let me breastfeed because they said the amount of energy and calories that it takes for that baby to learn how to breastfeed and you to learn how to do it, it's better to bottle feed. And that broke my heart because I was like, my baby needs me. I need to be there.
Right.
And I mean, the lactation consultant wasn't listening to me. And I said, no, I know how to, I was producing refrigerators of milk in the hospital. And I was like, just let me, but it was like, all that. And I was sort of like, I got more instruction with the second baby than I did with the first. Maybe because my husband was there. Who knows? But once I finally was able to bring him home and he was in my home, in my environment, he was always fine.
Yeah.
But it was that thing of there's the protocols of well, technically, if it's born at this date, gotta have it wasn't. I didn't feel as if I was listened to.
Yeah.
And that really caused me to break down crying in the hospital. But no, the nurses didn't understand how it was upsetting for a mother to, they have you housed with all the women that have just given birth.
Yeah.
For me, my baby being in the NICU and hearing next door a crying baby and on the other side a crying baby.
Yeah.
That was, it really messed with my mind.
Right.
And I remember on day 3, the nurse was like, well, do you want the Ambien they prescribed? And I'm like, the what? Now, y'all didn't tell me. So it was nobody said anything. Well, yeah, it's on their PRN or however.
Right.
Now I'm able to tell the story. And I truly believe it was this setting that allowed me to tell it.
Yeah.
The other thing that it brought about was we were the first people in our friend group to have babies.
Okay.
After that, I've had several friends that have gone through what you were going through. And eventually, they now it's take these kids, but they would say, it went so smooth for you. You had it so, not so easy, but it was almost, we saw y'all doing it went so smoothly. And that's when I had to go, I clearly did not convey what I was really going through, the fear, it was a geriatric pregnancy for both because I was 36. And, it was sort of anything that was wrong was well, you're old. And
Geriatric.
Which is such a...
I know. I'm 38. I hear it.
it's a silly, maybe it's when my body, y'all don't want to know when I started my period?
Right.
You have to be mentally, that's the other thing too, mentally ready to have a baby. I don't care what my age is, but there's also sort of people trying to scare me. I had one doctor with my son who told me there's going to be a full moon this week and don't look at the full moon, it will cause a miscarriage. And I was I can't go back to that doctor.
Right.
And found a new one, but needed my records transferred.
Yeah.
So just tried to break up, ghost her. She called me and was like, why are you leaving? What are you doing? I'm the best. I've delivered 14,000 babies. You're not going to find anybody that's done this. And I was like, well, it's insurance. She's like, it's not insurance. And I was like, fine. It's because you made me, you scared me by saying those things. And she was like, but it could. It's true. You're old. It's this. And I know my age. I also know my body.
Right.
I'm so glad that as you're going through this, you have this sort of room
Mm-hmm.
of women
Mm-hmm.
sort of just be around you.
Yeah.
You- It's difficult.
Yeah. 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 That's what I'm so grateful for. And I was ready to ask you, like, going through what you went through, differences maybe in your household.
Yes.
How how do you get through this? And for me, like being part of these kinds of spaces does support.
Yes. I grew up in a household. I was the fourth child. My parents, right out the gate, had my brothers that were twins,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't live near their family. And I think because of that, it was like all hands on deck. So when I was born, my father was very involved. My mother was very, very involved.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, that doesn't happen in white households.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more of a like dad, papa, like what's for dinner kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not here.
Yeah.
It took me like, why isn't he involved?
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a white therapist I had this white therapist who had been adopted by a black family. So she's like, here's what's going on. White people this, black, and from then I understood and was able to go to him and say, this is what your children need from you as a father.
Yeah.
That maybe you didn't understand because as Black people, we are not only tasked with keeping our children alive, but teaching them how to keep themselves alive.
Right.
What we teach them. So, for example, he would go for a walk with kids and let them go in people's yards and pick flowers. And I'd be like, no. Because when white papa ain't there and they go do that, it's going to be an issue. So you need to be aware of that. So there were things like that that I had to learn to say that I wouldn't have been able to say if I was in my 20s. Like I would, you know what I'm saying? Like in church, there was the wisdom.
Yeah.
That thing. But yeah, there are definitely ways that I learned how to stick up for myself and not just be like, it's okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned your music.
Mm-hmm.
That is so wonderful because once your baby is born,
Mm-hmm. you
will have this creative thing, this force that drove you, that helped you in a way of dealing with it in a positive way. Things like that can lead you to drink, can lead you to doubt yourself, to just go, all right, I ain't gonna have kids,
right.
Right. But we persevere, and people always say like everything happens for a reason. Yeah, it's always the person who it's not happening to that says that. But when it happens, and it will, when it does, you will go, now is the time. Now is the correct moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I received that. Thank you so much. This is such an important topic. I definitely want to sit with you again.
Yes.
Sure.
You are absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Thank you so much.
And just being in a space like this, being around. That's why when she said that, I'm like, oh, I could tell the funny, I could do that, but that's not the truth.
Yeah.
And often as Black women, my mom would always say to me when I'd say, Mom, how you doing? She'd go, fair and middling. And I'd be like, finally, I was like, why do you say that? She said, well, we were raised as Black people that if a white person asks you how you do, and you say you're great, they'll try to pull you down. If you say you're bad, they'll try to keep you down. So you just say, everything fair and middling, just plugging along. Don't look at me. And that part of who we are is pain. A large part of who we are is pain. We were, they were talking about the Western way or how we breastfeed here, how we see it, formula and all of that. Well, that has to do with us being brought here and being used to nurse the master's babies, right?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, white people went like, well, hang on a second. We'll just make formula so we don't, you know what I mean? And that needs to be addressed and understood and heard and felt. And I truly hope that your doulas and the doctors that have spoken here today have given you a sense of hope.
Yes.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is what you're going through will make you a stronger parent and make your child strong, because they will get here when they are ready to a degree. You know, we were married for 9 years before we decided to have babies. I remember my mother-in-law going, I didn't even know you, I thought you didn't want, you know, by that time people were like, had sort of written us off as like, you just don't want it. Well, I want it when I can be the best parent I can, which was at age 36. And between me and you and everybody watching, great mom. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I will be too.
Thank you.